Who's ready for some excitement?
We are!
Who's ready for some fun?
We are!
Who's ready to shut up and watch the episode?
No, thank you.
No one asked you. It doesn't matter what you think.
Roll film.
Welcome everyone to the omniverse of Nick and part 10 to What If Cliffjumper Survived. Now, like always, before we get into today's episode, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the omniverse of Nick so you can help me grow up this channel, get more awesome stories pumping out, even see your stories come on into the future, and just generally help out the cause. With all that out of the way, we can begin the next part to Cliffjumper's tale. Leaving off from last time, we have probably the most shocking thing besides Ratchet's death in this story. Soundwave, seemingly out of nowhere, has come back. And he can talk and says that they really should have made sure he was terminated. And obviously, everyone, Wheeljack, Cliff, and RC, are very shocked at this revelation and completely sidestep the fact that Hardshell and all the Insecticons are there too. But Wheeljack, he's gained his strength back by now. Three of them get into a ship, they get on, and they prepare to fire missiles. Soundwave beelines it out of there, leaving Hardshell to get utterly, completely vaporized. As for the Insecticons that would follow, Wheeljack pretty much admits his original plan, just with the help of Cliff and RC, with a little more firepower. Once they get back to the base, Optimus wants to know what exactly happened. He knows that Wheeljack, obviously, couldn't be stopped from going out and trying to avenge Bulkhead even if he wasn't terminated, but something obviously besides that happened, especially since they're all injured. And Wheeljack simply says Soundwave isn't dead. He doesn't know why, how, or how it's remotely possible, but just whenever he was about to get killed by the Insecticon, Cliff and RC saved him. It seemed like it was all right, but then Soundwave just... Everyone's emotional right now. Wheeljack, Cliff, RC, they can't process how this has happened. Neither can Optimus, and this actually gets to him a little. Doesn't scare him or anything, but he does say that it's with very much concern that Soundwave is still around, which proves, somehow, someway, no matter if he survived or not, the Decepticons and Megatron are not giving up this fight anytime soon. They may have lost their forces, some of them, and, you know, more or less the same with the Autobots, except the Autobots are a bit more on leverage, but they ain't giving up anytime soon, especially since he knows Megatron. But he does lambast Wheeljack just a little bit for putting himself in that situation, even if he did do good by thinking he killed Soundwave, which Wheeljack can agree to with the standpoint, but with Cliff and RC and everything like that, it's not too much of a ridicule from Optimus, since he's just as equally baffled. Meanwhile, I know that every single one of you that is going to be commenting is going to be asking me, how, why, just how? How is Soundwave still alive? Because that plan, in canon, could have killed him, and this definitely should have killed him. Well, here's the big reveal. The explosion did, in fact, kill Soundwave. But beforehand, and before he even went out to find the ion blaster, they had actually found a use for Makeshift. Finally, after all this time, Makeshift, Soundwave, pretty much kind of being a surveillance chief, knew that something would happen, or at least before the bomb fully went off inside the ship, he knew that something was going to happen. It really doesn't matter when, but he knew. So, he integrated a backup installment of himself into Makeshift. So, it's not Wheeljack Makeshift, it's Soundwave Makeshift. Pretty much a backup carbon copy integrated into another Decepticon, which Makeshift is perfect for. And this is why Megatron was smiling in the last episode, because even though Soundwave died, he basically didn't. Because with Makeshift, he can do almost pretty much everything Soundwave did. And that's how we have this Soundwave, which is not actually Soundwave. There you go. Finally found a use for Makeshift. Anyways, after all that exposition, we don't get, obviously, the scene or episode with RC and Miko, because 1, they're at a different base, 2, Cliff's alive, 3, there's no kids, and 4, there'd be no reason to have this episode kind of thing in the first place. So, that doesn't happen. And Megatron, on one hand, he's angry that the Insecticon leader is dead, along with a large army of Insecticons, and no bot besides the medic has been killed so far on their journey to Earth. But, on the plus side, Makeshift, being Soundwave pretty much integrated, is making much better progress with having the data of Soundwave and everything than he did with Wheeljack. Then again, besides the blades and the shooting, there isn't too much of Wheeljack to explore. Well, Makeshift could have definitely used better with the bombs, but that would make for a review video. But anyways, both the Soundwave, he's doing even much better with actual time to get used to it. Think of Makeshift as like a Zamasu or Ginyu of sorts, which definitely keeps Megatron in a good mood. Anyways, we then get the debut of Smokescreen, and pretty much his whole entrance playing out the exact same way, him thinking he's great for Destiny, and this, that, and the other thing about Smokescreen's introduction, because really, there'd be nothing to sway that little point of the story, except Team Prime would be almost the same exact way, except maybe a little bit more relaxed with Smokescreen, because Cliff is alive, even though Ratchet's dead, which I think would help RC, not lambasting him, but ultimately I think it would be the exact same nevertheless, except Cliff would probably provide some stability even if Ratchet weren't there. Anyways, Smokescreen, once again, his whole entrance thing plays out the exact same way, so far. Then we get to the scene of the Red Energon and Starscream, and the only difference, that part, is that Cliff is there to stop Starscream from climbing the tower, and he pretty much is the one to hold off Starscream while the Autobots are on the tower. But his shots, of course, do nothing to Starscream, but they distract him long enough for Smokescreen to come out of nowhere and kick Starscream out of the Apex armor with the phase shifter. So he doesn't even get to properly introduce himself. He does after, though, making a very snarky remark at Starscream's lack of keeping on his guard. But Starscream retorts by blowing the cage with the Red Energon and fleeing. So, yeah, call it a retort among a retort, if you will. Then we get the debut of Silas in Breakdown's body. And this is where things are going to drastically change. Fowler says to everybody about this whole development as he did in canon, but there is no human besides him, no kids, to do the whole go to Raphael's house and, disable Project Damocles. So, Fowler would be left to do it on his own, but it's not enough. It's literally one man, and the way to do it would be so much more complex with just Fowler. So Project Damocles and everything going on, it ultimately means that Project Damocles stays functioning, which Optimus pretty much tells his Autobots they need to retreat because it becomes so fierce they can't fight back, so they literally have to retreat. Once back to the base, Optimus is now dead sure beyond anything, with this especially seeming that Silas is on board with the Decepticons means that now Megatron's gonna even be more on the level of not giving up anytime soon. This pretty much just confirms that they might still have great numbers, and they've only lost Ratchet, which is still a very high cost. They're still in this, and they still need to do about this smartly, otherwise they would have ended up just being fried. Bulkhead says that they can still do this, they just need to take out Project Damocles and it'll be so much easier. Especially since Silas, Breakdown, he really wants to get into gear. He felt like he had Silas, it's just Project Damocles too much. And even he knows that. And knows that even if they did that, the cons would still be rough, especially with Soundwave seemingly still alive. They don't know the development of Makeshift yet. Now, Optimus acknowledges this and says that if they're going to do this, they have to do this a smart way and wait, and then come up with a plan. They're still going about the relics and everything and all that, and Optimus says that he's got his eye on the next relic. He doesn't know what it is yet, but he feels that Megatron and all of his forces are going to go there, but Project Damocles is going to be on their side. So what they need to try and do is think of a way to split their forces. Parts go to the relic, parts go to shut down Damocles from two angles. That way, the cons, they can't expect this, or at least if they do, it will still give them the edge. This can work. They just gotta wait to develop this plan and make sure they know what they're doing, or what they're getting into. At the Nemesis, Silas, now feeling that Damocles has definitely grown into the favor of Megatron, not being shut down, wants to worm his way fully into the ranks of Megatron's Decepticons. And with Damocles not shut down, Megatron is still annoyed at Silas's impertinence, but ultimately, it has proved to force the Autobots to retreat and almost get a few of them fried. So, Megatron, especially with Soundwave still alive, technically, he is feeling in a rather cordial and good mood, and he accepts Silas, but part of it's really sarcastic, because Megatron, and two, it's human, so it's gonna take some time for Megatron to get used to the fact they're teaming with a human, but, you know, it is what it is. Meanwhile, Wheeljack is getting annoyed at just waiting, and says that he's really feeling unsure about the whole Soundwave thing, feeling like he failed to kill him and everything. And he says to Optimus, they need to do their plan and they need to do it now. He is done waiting, especially telling him about Soundwave and everything. Optimus, knowing how reckless Wheeljack can be, but knowing what he's saying, agrees that yes, they've finally found out where the relic that he was talking about earlier is, and now they can actually go about a plan. Some of their forces will go to the relic, others will go to stop Damocles, but they'll stick together for now and do the plan only when they're in the right place, and Wheeljack agrees, feeling victory to finally terminate Soundwave. Smokescreen's training would instead be done with Fowler instead of Jack, so really, it's an easy fix. Meanwhile, Makeshift, Soundwave, is getting really good data and surveillance and everything, and can pretty much detect and feel out the situation that the Autobots will most likely, now that Damocles is still functioning, and now that they got their eyes on the next relic, try to split the forces to combat them. He hasn't heard anything, but he can pretty much sense this. You know, it's Soundwave, and it's Makeshift, so what more could you expect? Anyways, Megatron, feeling that, it sounds pretty accurate, decides they'll split the forces too, to equally combat this. So, Megatron, Dreadwing, and 10 Viacon troopers, they decide to go after the relic, which, if you haven't figured it out by now, is the Star Saber. Meanwhile, Makeshift, Soundwave, just for those who, confuse the two, because it could get confusing, I could understand. Anyway, Makeshift, Soundwave, along with Silas, they go to the area in which the Autobots will most likely try to target Damocles if they hadn't already and gotten onto their signal. You know, it would pretty much be like timing. I'm not going to pretend I know where they'd be. It's just more or less the timing of the moment. Knockout, very begrudgingly, and Megatron forcing him, he goes along too, along with the Insecticons. It's pretty much splitting up the resources and the troops just to equally combat, Optimus's plan, even if they didn't fully know how the Autobots were going to go about it. Neither side knew. It's more or less just a guess. Anyways, Wheeljack, he mans the ship, and soon enough, when they get to a good vantage point in the halfway point of where the relic is, Optimus says that Cliff and RC will join him to go after the Saber, which they now know about to a degree, and Optimus says that those three, him, Cliff, and RC, will go after the relic. The rest will go after Damocles. That way they will have way more on Damocles, and he is confident that him, Cliff, especially Cliff, and RC will be able to get the Saber, especially with all the confusion. So, Bulk, Wheeljack, Smokescreen, and B all go to the direction in which to take out Damocles, while Prime easily gets the Saber like he does with Cliff and RC's help, slices the boulder launched at him, and then casually swipes at the ship. After that, we cut to Wheeljack and the rest of Team Prime advancing to go and take out Damocles. But they're not on their own for long, as Makeshift, Soundwave, is on to their tail with Silas and Knockout and the Insecticons on their tail too. Silas more or less focusing on the rest of Team Prime, while Makeshift, Soundwave, once again still specifying that, focuses on Wheeljack trying to get away from him and get to Damocles. But Makeshift just flies after him, so it's a chase, just like before Soundwave was killed. And Wheeljack knows that either Soundwave's gonna get to him first, or it could be a big explosion that could rupture the ship if he tries to attack Damocles. So he says over the comm link to Bulkhead that he's got a plan, but it's not going to be an easy one, and there's a chance that he could end up risking his life to not only take out Soundwave for good, but Damocles along with him. Now, what is Wheeljack's plan here? Will it work? And if it does, will it end up with him actually biting the dust? Will he miraculously survive? And will it actually take out Soundwave, Makeshift? Or is this all just for nothing to lose another bot?
Why am I asking you all these questions?
Find out in the next episode on the Omniverse of Nick.